Ambassador Kethver stepped into the center of the great council chamber. His blue skin looked pale under the bright lights. The tall alien from the Zephyrian Empire had traveled across 3 star systems to bring this news. Every seat in the massive room was filled. Representatives from over 200 different worlds waited to hear what he had to say. That the chamber fell silent. Even the usual whispers and quiet conversations stopped. Kethver looked around at all the different alien faces staring at him. Some had scales, others had fur. A few glowed with their own light, but all of them looked worried. "The Void Hunters have returned," Kethver said. His voice carried clearly through the chamber's sound system. "They are not the same machines we fought 1,000 years ago. They have grown stronger, much stronger." A wave of shocked gasps filled the room. Many of the older species remembered the stories their ancestors had told about the Void Hunters. They were ancient machines that consumed everything in their path. Planets, stars, entire solar systems. Nothing was safe when they came hunting. Chairman Valtos rose from his crystal throne at the front of the chamber. The being from Arcturus Prime stood 12 feet tall and looked like he was made of living. Diamond. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "How many systems have fallen?" the chairman asked. 17 in the past 2 months, Kethva replied. "The Kepler colonies are gone. The mining worlds of Sector 7 have been stripped clean. Even the fortress world of Iron Gate could not stop them." The chamber erupted into panicked voices. Delegates jumped to their feet, shouting questions and demands. Some called for immediate military action. Others wanted to flee to the far edges of the galaxy. A few suggested trying to negotiate with the machines. Chairman Valtos raised one crystal hand, and the room went quiet again. "What do our military leaders say about stopping them?" Admiral Vexul of the 3rd Fleet stood up in the military section. The Zephyrian officer looked tired and defeated. "We have engaged them twice, Chairman. Both times we were forced to retreat. Their ships adapt to our weapons during battle. What works in the first hour fails by the second. By the 3rd hour, they are using our own tactics against us." "How many ships did we lose?" asked Delegate Quinter from the Vegan Colonial Union. 43 ships in the first battle. 61 in the second, Admiral Vexul replied. The Void Hunters lost 3 ships total. More panicked voices filled the chamber. The mathematics were simple and terrifying. At this rate, the entire Council fleet would be destroyed within months. The Void Hunters would then be free to consume every inhabited world in the galaxy. Chairman Valtos called for order again. "We must unite all our forces. Every member world will contribute ships and soldiers to fight this threat. There can be no exceptions." A holographic list appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed every member species and how many ships they were expected to provide. The numbers were huge. Some smaller worlds would have to give up their entire defense fleets. Ambassador Lisa Carter sat quietly in the human section near the back of the chamber. She was a small woman with brown hair and tired eyes. For the past 3 hours, she had been listening to the debates and taking notes to send back to Earth. But she had not expected to see Earth's name on the conscription list. The humans had joined the Galactic Council 50 years ago when they first learned to travel faster than light. But the Council had made it clear that Earth was too young and too primitive to get involved in galactic politics. Humans were told to observe and learn, but never to interfere in the affairs of older civilizations. Lisa looked at the number next to Earth's name on the list. The Council wanted humanity to provide 20 ships and 5,000 soldiers. It was not a huge amount compared to what other worlds were being asked to give. But it broke 50 years of careful neutrality. She stood up slowly. "Chairman Veltas, I need to speak." The crystal being turned his attention to the small human delegate. "Ambassador Carter, Earth's contribution requirements are clearly listed. 20 ships and 5,000 personnel. With respect, Chairman, Lisa said, her voice carrying across the vast chamber. Earth has honored the Council's request to remain uninvolved in galactic politics. We have maintained our neutrality for 5 decades, as you asked us to do. The chamber fell silent again. This was unexpected. Most species simply accepted their military assignments without question. The humans were supposed to be a quiet, peaceful race that did what they were told. This is different, Ambassador, said Delegate Morthek from Altair Prime. The being of pure energy flickered nervously inside his mechanical suit. The Void Hunters do not care about politics or neutrality. They will consume your soul system just like all the others. We understand the threat, Lisa replied calmly. But you cannot ask us to abandon 50 years of neutrality without discussion. Earth will need time to consider this request. Chairman Veltos looked confused. Ambassador, this is not a request. This is a mandatory conscription order. All member species must contribute to the defense of the galaxy. Lisa activated her communication device and sent a priority message to Earth Command. The message was simple, but would change everything. Council demanding military intervention. Requesting immediate guidance. Back on Earth, the message arrived at the Pentagon at 3 in the morning local time. Admiral Jake Morrison was woken up by his aide and brought to the secure communications room. He read the message twice before fully understanding what it meant. Get me the President, he told his aide, and wake up the Joint Chiefs. We have a situation. Within an hour, the most powerful people in the human government were gathered in the underground command center. President Helen Brooks looked at the message from Ambassador Carter and then at the faces around the table. 50 years, she said quietly. For 50 years we have done exactly what they asked. We stayed out of their wars. We kept our opinions to ourselves. We played the role of the primitive newcomers who were grateful just to be allowed in their club. General Carl Davis, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, pulled up files on his tablet. The Void Hunters are real, Madam President. Our deep space. Sensors have been tracking them for weeks. They are heading in this general direction, but they are still several months away from human space. What are our options? The President asked. We can comply with their request, said Secretary of Defense Maria Santos. Send 20 ships and hope it is enough to stop these machines. Or, President Brooks asked. Admiral Morrison looked at the classified files in front of him. Or we tell them the truth about what Earth is really capable of. But if we do that, there is no going back. They will never see us the same way again. The room went quiet as everyone considered the implications. For 50 years, humanity had hidden its true nature from the galaxy. They had pretended to be peaceful and weak while secretly building the most advanced military force the galaxy had ever seen. President Brooks made her decision. Send Admiral Morrison to observe the situation firsthand. Take a small task force and gather intelligence. We need to know if the Council is telling us the truth about this threat. And if they are? Admiral Morrison asked. Then we will show them what humans are really capable of, the President replied. But we do it on our terms, not theirs. Back in the Council chamber, Ambassador Lisa Carter waited for Earth's response. When it came, she read it carefully before addressing the chairman. Earth will send a small observation force to assess the situation, she announced. We will make our final decision based on what we learn. Chairman Veltos looked frustrated. Ambassador, there is no time for assessment. The Void Hunters advance. Every day. Then you should have thought of that before you spent 50 years telling us to stay out of galactic affairs, Lisa replied. Earth will respond when Earth is ready. As she left the chamber, Lisa could hear the panicked voices starting up again behind her. The Council was learning that humanity was not as easy to control as they had believed. Soon, they would learn. much more about the species they had underestimated for so long. President Helen Brooks walked down the long corridor toward the secure meeting room deep beneath the Pentagon. Her footsteps echoed off the metal walls. The emergency session had been called for 6 in the morning, but she had been awake most of the night reading intelligence reports about the Void Hunters. The meeting room was filled with the most important military leaders in the human government. Admiral Jake Morrison sat at the head of the table with his staff officers. General Carl Davis had brought detailed analysis from the Joint Chiefs. Secretary of Defense Maria Santos looked tired but alert. "Show me what we know," President Brooks said as she took her seat. General Davis activated the holographic display in the center of the table. Images of destroyed star systems appeared in the air. Where planets used to orbit their suns, only empty space remained. Not even asteroids were left behind. The Void Hunters are not just winning battles, General Davis explained. They are completely erasing civilizations. Look at this system here. 3 days ago, it had 4 planets and over 6 billion people. Now there is nothing but empty space around the star. Admiral Morrison pulled up tactical data from the Council fleet engagements. The alien ships are fighting like this as some kind of formal duel. They announce their attacks. They give warnings before firing. They try to disable enemy ships instead of destroying them. And the Void Hunters? President Brooks asked. No warnings. No mercy. They adapt to every tactic within minutes and then use it against their enemies, Admiral Morrison replied. The Council fleets are being slaughtered because they are fighting with honor against an enemy that has no concept of the word. Secretary Santos opened a thick file marked with the highest security classifications. This brings us to the real question, Madam President. If we get involved in this war, we cannot pretend to be the peaceful observers anymore. The galaxy will learn what Earth is really capable of. Dr. Richard Hayes, the government's expert on alien species, had been studying the galactic civilizations for 30 years. He stood up and walked to the holographic display. I have analyzed every major war the Galactic Council has fought in the past 2 centuries, Dr. Hayes said. The pattern is always the same. The older, more powerful species make the battle plans. The younger species provide the soldiers and ships to carry them out. Casualties? President Brooks asked. Among the core Council worlds, average casualties are less than 5%, Dr. Hayes replied. Among the younger member species who do the actual fighting, casualties average 73%. The room went quiet as everyone absorbed this information. The Council was not asking Earth to join a united defense. They were asking humanity to be cannon fodder while the powerful species stayed safe. General Davis brought up classified files that showed Earth's real military strength. For 50 years, we have been developing weapons and ships in secret. The Council thinks we have a few dozen primitive vessels. The reality is very different. The holographic display changed to show Earth's hidden shipyards. Massive construction. Facilities orbited the outer planets, completely invisible to alien sensors. Hundreds of advanced warships waited in secret bases throughout the solar system. The Independence and her task force represent less than 1% of our actual fleet, Admiral Morrison explained. We have been preparing for a galactic war since the day we made first contact. President Brooks looked at the images of Earth's hidden military might. Why did we hide all of this? Because we learned from history, Dr. Hayes answered. Every time a new species joins the Council with significant military power, they are immediately seen as a threat. The older species either try to control them or destroy them. We chose a different path. Secretary Santos opened another file. We made ourselves appear weak and harmless. We let them think we were grateful just to be included in their galactic community. Meanwhile, We built the most advanced military force any single species has ever possessed. Admiral Morrison stood and walked to the display. The question now is whether we reveal our true capabilities. Once we do that, everything changes. The Council will either fear us or try to use us. There will be no going back to the way things were. What about the Void Hunters themselves? President Brooks asked. Are they really the threat the Council claims they are? General Davis pulled up long-range sensor data. Our deep space monitoring stations have been tracking them for months. They are real, and they are advancing toward this region of the galaxy. At their current speed, they will reach the outer Council worlds in about 2 months. And Earth? The President asked. 6 months, maybe 7 if they stop to consume the Council worlds completely, Admiral Morrison replied. But they will reach US eventually. Dr. Hayes added crucial intelligence. The Void Hunters are not random destroyers. They have a pattern. They are testing the Council's military capabilities and finding them weak. Each battle teaches them more about galactic military doctrine, which means, President Brooks asked, they are learning how to fight the Council's style of warfare, Dr. Hayes explained. But they have never encountered a species that fights like humans do. Secretary Santos raised the most important question. What makes human warfare different? Admiral Morrison answered immediately. We do not fight for honor or glory. We fight to win by any means necessary. We have spent our entire history at war with ourselves. We know every dirty trick, every brutal tactic, every way to destroy an enemy completely. The Council species fight like knights in some ancient story, General Davis added. They have rules and codes of honor. Humans fight like soldiers in a war for survival. President Brooks stood and walked to the window that looked out over the underground command center. Dozens of officers monitored screens showing military activity across human space. She thought about the choice facing humanity. If we stay neutral, the Void Hunters will eventually reach Earth anyway, she said. If we help the Council using their methods, we will probably lose along with everyone else. There is a third option, Admiral Morrison said quietly, which is, we fight this war using human methods. We show the galaxy what total warfare really looks like, Admiral Morrison replied. But if we do that, we become the dominant military. Power in known space. The Council will never be able to ignore us again. President Brooks made her decision. Prepare Admiral Morrison's task force for immediate departure. Take the Independence and 5 escort ships. I want you to observe one of these battles firsthand. And if the situation is as bad as the Council claims, Admiral Morrison asked, then we show them what happens when you wake up a sleeping giant, President Brooks replied. Earth will enter this war, but we do it on our terms and using our methods. Admiral Morrison saluted. Understood, Madam President. When do we leave? As soon as possible. And Admiral? President Brooks looked at him seriously. Do not reveal our true capabilities unless you have no choice. Let them think we are still the weak, peaceful humans they remember. What if the Council forces try to give us orders? Admiral Morrison asked. Politely ignore them, President Brooks replied. We are there to observe and assess, nothing more. As the meeting ended, everyone understood that humanity stood at a crossroads. For 50 years, they had hidden their true nature from the galaxy. Now they were about to discover whether that patience and deception had been worth it. The war was coming whether Earth wanted it or not. The only question was whether humanity would fight as the junior partners the Council expected, or as the apex predators they really were. The Independence dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge looking at the tactical display. What he saw made his stomach turn. Dozens of alien ships were fleeing in panic, while strange, dark vessels pursued them. "Admiral, we are receiving a distress call from the Zephyrian Third Fleet," reported Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster from her station. "They are requesting immediate assistance." Morrison watched as another council ship exploded on the display. The alien vessels were fighting bravely, but they were being torn apart. Their weapons seemed to have little effect on the dark machines chasing them. "Put Admiral Vexul on the main screen," Morrison ordered. The blue-skinned Zephyrian appeared on the view screen. Behind him, Morrison could see smoke and sparks from damaged systems. Vexul looked desperate and exhausted. "Admiral Morrison, thank the stars you are here," Vexul said. "We have lost 60% of our fleet in the past 6 hours. These machines are unlike anything we have ever faced." "What is your tactical situation?" Morrison asked. "Hopeless," Vexul replied honestly. "Every weapon we use against them works for a few minutes. Then they adapt and turn our own tactics against us. We have tried everything in our military doctrine." Captain Steve Parker of the destroyer Vigilant was monitoring the enemy ships from a safe distance. "Admiral, I am reading some very strange energy signatures from those machines. They are not just adapting to weapons. They are learning the entire pattern of how the Council ships fight." Morrison studied the tactical data streaming from the fleeing Council vessels. The Void Hunters were not just winning. They were playing with their enemies like cats with mice. Every Council tactic was analyzed, adapted to, and then used against them within minutes. "Lieutenant Commander Foster, what is your analysis?" Morrison asked. Amy Foster had been studying alien military history for years. "Sir, the Council ships are fighting like this is some kind of formal battle. They announce their attacks. They give warnings before firing major weapons. They even try to rescue enemy survivors. And the Void Hunters? No warnings. No mercy. They attack weak points immediately and show no interest in prisoners or honor," Foster replied. "They fight to completely destroy their enemies." Morrison made a decision that would change everything. "All ships, prepare for combat. We are going to engage the Void Hunters." "Admiral," Captain Archer called from the Vigilant, "our orders were to observe only." "Our orders were to assess the threat," Morrison replied. "I cannot properly assess an enemy I have never fought." The human task force moved toward the battle. The Independents led the way, followed by 5 escort ships. To the Council fleet, it looked like a suicide mission. 6 small human ships against an entire squadron of Void Hunters. "Admiral," Vexul watched in horror as the human ships approached the enemy. "Admiral Morrison, you must retreat. Those machines will destroy you in minutes." Morrison ignored the warning. "All ships implement Battle Plan Alpha. No communications with the enemy. No warnings, no mercy." What happened next shocked every alien who witnessed it. The human ships did not announce their attack or demand surrender. They simply opened fire with everything they had. The Independents launched a spread of missiles that split apart into dozens of smaller warheads. Each warhead targeted a different system on the lead Void Hunter ship. Instead of trying to destroy the enemy vessel with a single powerful shot, the humans were attacking every weak point at once. Captain Parker's destroyer used a tactic the aliens had never seen before. The Vigilant fired a salvo of missiles, then immediately launched a spread of electronic warfare drones. When the Void Hunters adapted to the missiles, the drones hit them with jamming signals they had never encountered. The battle lasted 4 hours. During that time, the human ships used tactics that horrified their alien allies. They sacrificed unmanned drone ships to get close to enemy vessels. They targeted life support systems instead of weapons. They showed no interest in taking prisoners or following any rules of war. Most shocking of all, when a Void Hunter ship tried to retreat, the humans hunted it down and destroyed it completely. There was no mercy, no honor, no attempt to accept surrender. When the battle ended, the entire Void Hunter squadron had been destroyed. The human task force had lost 2 escort ships and suffered damage to the others, but they had achieved total victory. Admiral Vexul stared at his tactical display in disbelief. "Impossible," he whispered. "How did you defeat them so completely?" Morrison ordered the Independence to dock with the Zephyrian flagship. He wanted to have this conversation face to face. An hour later, he sat across from Admiral Vexul in the aliens' ready room. "Your species fights like nothing we have ever encountered," Vexul said. "Where did you learn such brutal tactics?" Morrison looked at the alien commander seriously. "We learned it from each other, Admiral. Earth has never known true peace. We have been at war with ourselves for our entire recorded history." Vexul's blue skin went pale. "You mean humans fight other humans using these methods?" "For thousands of years," Morrison replied. "We have fought wars over land, resources, ideas, and sometimes just because we did not like each other. We have developed every possible way to destroy an enemy completely." "But your species presented itself as peaceful when you joined the Council," Vexul protested. "We are peaceful," Morrison said, "when we choose to be. But when we are forced to fight, we fight to win by any means necessary." Lieutenant Commander Foster provided additional context that made the alien admiral even more uncomfortable. "The battle tactics we use today are considered basic combat doctrine by human standards. We have much more advanced methods for enemies that are harder to defeat." Admiral Vexul realized the implications of what he was hearing. "How much of your military capability have you been hiding from the Council?" Morrison stood and walked to the window, looking out at the human ships. "Admiral, what you witnessed today represents less than 1% of Earth's actual military strength. We have been building our forces in secret for 50 years. "Why?" Vexul asked. "Because we study history," Morrison replied. "Every time a new species joins the Council with significant military power, they are either controlled or destroyed by the older species. We chose to appear weak while becoming strong." Foster added the most disturbing fact of all. "The ships you see here are considered light patrol vessels by human standards. Our actual warships are much larger and much more heavily armed." Admiral Vexul sat in stunned silence for several minutes. Finally, he asked the question that was haunting him. "If humans are this powerful, why did you help us?" "You could have. Let the Void Hunters destroy the Council, and then claim the galaxy for yourselves." Morrison looked at the alien with something approaching pity. "Because despite everything, we still believe in protecting innocent life. But do not mistake our mercy for weakness, Admiral. The Council has spent 50 years treating us like children who should be grateful for scraps from your table. And now?" Vexul asked quietly. "Now you know what we really are," Morrison replied. "The question is what the Council will do with that knowledge." As Morrison prepared to return to his ship, Admiral Vexul had one final question. "Will Earth help us defeat the Void Hunters?" Morrison paused at the door. "That depends on whether the Council is prepared to treat humanity as an equal partner instead of a junior member to be ordered around." "What if the Council refuses?" Morrison's response sent a chill through the alien admiral. "Then the Council will discover that the Void Hunters are not the most dangerous predators in this galaxy." News of the human victory spread through the Galactic Council like wildfire. Within hours, every major species knew that the small human task force had destroyed an entire Void Hunter squadron without losing a single ship. The reports seemed impossible, but Admiral Vexul's testimony was undeniable. Chairman Vel Toss called an emergency session in the Great Council Chamber. For the first time in centuries, every seat was filled. Representatives who had not attended a meeting in decades traveled across the galaxy to witness this historic moment. The crystalline being stood at the center of the chamber, his diamond-like body reflecting the worried faces around him. We have received detailed reports from Admiral Vexul about the human engagement with the Void Hunters. The implications of these reports are ... disturbing. Ambassador Lisa Carter sat in the human section, reading messages from Earth on her secure tablet. The orders from President Brooks were clear. Listen, take notes, but make no commitments. Earth would decide its own course of action. The humans destroyed 12 Void Hunter vessels in 4 hours. Chairman Veltos continued. Their tactics were unlike anything we have seen in galactic warfare. They showed no mercy, no honor, and no restraint. Delegate Morthic from Altair Prime flickered nervously in his energy containment suit. Chairman, are we certain these reports are accurate? How could such a small force achieve what our entire Third Fleet could not? Admiral Vexul stood to address the chamber. The Zephyrian commander looked haunted by what he had witnessed. Honored delegates, I watched the human ships fight with my own eyes. They do not fight like any civilized species. They fight like predators hunting prey. Explain, demanded Delegate Quinter from the Vegan Colonial Union. They used no warning. Signals. They gave no opportunity for surrender. They targeted life support systems, engines, and weapons simultaneously. When one of our enemies tried to retreat, they hunted it down and destroyed it completely. Admiral Vexul replied. Chamber erupted in shocked voices. This type of warfare was considered barbaric by galactic standards. Civilized species announced their attacks, gave enemies chances to surrender, and treated prisoners with respect. Chairman Veltos called for order. Admiral Vexul, did the humans explain their tactics? Admiral Morrison told me that Earth has been at war with itself for thousands of years. He said they learned to fight by fighting each other, Vexul replied. He also said that what we witnessed was less than 1% of their actual military capability. The chamber fell silent. If the humans had been hiding their true strength for 50 years, it meant they were far more powerful than anyone had imagined. Ambassador Carter received another message from Earth. She read it carefully before standing. To address the chamber, all eyes turned to the small human delegate. Chairman Veltos, Earth appreciates the Council's recognition of our military assistance, she said calmly. However, we must address the current situation honestly. Speak freely, Ambassador, the chairman replied. For 50 years, the Council has treated Earth as a junior member. We were told to observe and learn, but never to participate in important decisions. We were considered too primitive and too peaceful to contribute meaningfully to galactic affairs, Carter said. Delegate Morthic interrupted. Ambassador, that was for your own protection. Younger species often make mistakes that cost lives. And yet, Carter continued, when faced with a threat you cannot handle, you immediately demand our military support. You want us to fight and die for a council that has never treated us as equals. Chairman Veltos tried to maintain diplomatic protocol. Ambassador, the Void Hunters threaten all life in the galaxy. This is not about politics or membership status. Is it not? Carter asked. Where were Earth's representatives when the Council decided on military strategy? Where was our voice when you planned your failed campaigns? You made decisions without us, and now you want us to fix your mistakes. The chamber buzzed with uncomfortable whispers. The human delegate was speaking. Truths that many species preferred to ignore. The Council had indeed treated Earth as an unimportant observer for decades. On Earth, President Brooks received hourly updates about the deteriorating galactic situation. The Void Hunters had destroyed 3 more star systems while the Council debated what to do. Time was running out for everyone. General Davis presented the latest intelligence reports. The Void Hunters are accelerating their advance. They have learned that the Council cannot stop them, so they are becoming bolder. How long before they reach the core worlds? President Brooks asked. 6 weeks, maybe less. Admiral Morrison replied via secure communication from his ship. The Council fleets are in complete disarray. Some species are talking about surrendering rather than fighting. Secretary Santos raised the crucial question. What does the Council want from us now? Everything, Dr. Hayes replied, reading the latest diplomatic communications. They want our entire fleet, our military technology, and our tactical expertise. They are essentially asking us to take over their war. President Brooks walked to the large map showing the galaxy. Red markers indicated Void Hunter positions. Blue markers showed Council fleet locations. The red markers were advancing steadily toward the center while the blue markers retreated. What are our options? She asked. We can give them what they want and fight their war using their methods, General Davis replied. But based on what we have seen, that will likely result in our defeat as well. Or, President Brooks asked, we fight this war using human methods, Admiral Morrison said over the communication link. But if we do that, we reveal our true capabilities. The galaxy will never see us the same way again. Dr. Hayes provided additional context. If we show our full military strength, we become the dominant power in known space. The Council will either try to control us or fear us. Either way, our relationship with the galactic community changes forever. Secretary Santos asked the question. Everyone was thinking, what if we refuse to help? Then the Void Hunters will eventually reach Earth anyway, General Davis replied. We will face them alone, without allies, after they have consumed the resources of hundreds of worlds. President Brooks made her decision. Send new orders to Admiral Morrison. Earth will intervene in this war, but we do it on our terms. What terms? General Davis asked. Full operational command of all anti-Void Hunter operations. Complete access to Council military resources and intelligence. And a permanent seat on the Council's ruling committee, President Brooks replied. And if they refuse? Secretary Santos asked. Then they can fight this war without us, President Brooks said firmly. But they should know that if the Void Hunters reach Earth, we will defend ourselves using every weapon and tactic at our disposal. Back in the Council chamber, Ambassador Carter received the new instructions from Earth. She stood once again to address the assembled delegates. Earth has made its decision, she announced. We will provide military assistance against the Void Hunters under specific conditions. Chairman Veltos looked relieved. What conditions, Ambassador? Complete operational command of all military operations. Full access to Council resources and intelligence. An immediate elevation to full Council membership with voting rights, Carter replied. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Many delegates protested that these demands were too extreme. Others argued that Earth was taking advantage of the crisis. Carter waited for the noise to die down before speaking again. These are not negotiations, honored delegates. These are the terms under which Earth will help you. Accept them, or fight this war without us. Chairman Veltos realized the Council had no choice. How long do we have to decide? The Void Hunters advance every day while you debate, Carter replied. Earth suggests you decide quickly. As the session ended, every delegate understood that the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted. The species they had dismissed as primitive newcomers were now dictating terms to the oldest civilizations in known space. The question was no longer whether humanity would help save the galaxy. The question was whether the galaxy was ready to accept human leadership. The space above New Babylon filled with ships as the largest fleet in galactic history assembled for the final battle. 3,000 Council vessels from dozens of different species waited in formation. They represented the combined military might of every civilization in known space. Then the human fleet arrived. Admiral, Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the battleship Defiant, watching as his ships took their positions. The human fleet consisted of 147 vessels, but these were not the small patrol ships the galaxy had seen before. These were the true warships of Earth, built in secret over 50 years of careful preparation. Captain Ellen Price, commanding the Defiant, looked at the tactical display showing the massive Void Hunter fleet approaching the system. Admiral, enemy force consists of over 800 vessels. They outgun the Council fleet 3-1. And us? Morrison asked. We are outnumbered 6-1, Price replied. But our ships are designed for this kind of fight. Morrison activated the fleet communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. Today we show the galaxy what human warfare really looks like. No warnings, no mercy, no retreat. Fight like your homeworld depends on it, because it does. The Void Hunters emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. Their dark ships moved like a single organism, adapting and responding to every Council ship movement within seconds. They had learned from hundreds of battles against galactic forces. Admiral Vexul commanded the Council fleet from his rebuilt flagship. He watched nervously as the enemy approached. All ships, prepare for battle. Follow human tactical commands. The first phase of the battle began exactly as every previous engagement had. The Council ships announced their presence, demanded surrender, and waited for a response. The Void Hunters ignored these protocols and opened fire immediately. Within minutes, the Council fleet was in trouble. Their ships were built for honorable combat, not the brutal efficiency the machines demonstrated. Dozens of alien vessels suffered heavy damage from the opening barrage. Then Admiral Morrison gave the order that changed everything. All human ships, engage the enemy. Execute Battle Plan Omega. What happened next horrified every alien who witnessed it. The human ships did not announce their attack or follow any recognizable battle formation. Instead, they scattered like a pack of wolves and began hunting. The Defiant led a group of heavy cruisers straight into the heart of the Void Hunter formation. Instead of engaging in formal ship-to-ship combat, the humans used swarm tactics. Multiple ships attacked single targets, overwhelming their defensive systems through sheer firepower. Captain Steve Parker, now commanding the heavy destroyer Vengeance, demonstrated tactics that made the alien crews sick. His ship used other vessels as shields, sacrificed unmanned drones to create openings, and targeted enemy life support systems instead of weapons. The human ships fought like they were designed for one purpose: to destroy the enemy completely and efficiently. They showed no interest in honor, glory, or following the traditional rules of space combat. Commander Lisa Grant commanded a squadron of human fighters that used kamikaze tactics against Void Hunter capital ships. Her pilots flew their ships directly into enemy engine systems, sacrificing themselves to cripple vessels 10 times their size. This is insane, Admiral Vexul whispered as he watched human pilots deliberately crash their ships into enemy vessels. How can they fight with such disregard for their own lives? The answer came from the human ships themselves. Every time a pilot sacrificed his ship, he transmitted the same message: for Earth and humanity. They were not fighting for glory or honor. They were fighting for survival. The battle raged for 18 hours. During that time, the Void Hunters learned that their adaptive capabilities were useless against an enemy that changed tactics every few minutes. The humans never repeated the same attack pattern twice. Captain Price coordinated the final assault on the Void Hunter command ship. All ships, target the central vessel. Use pattern Delta 7. The human fleet converged on the enemy flagship like arrows fired from 100 bows. They attacked from every angle simultaneously, making it impossible for the machine intelligence to adapt to all threats at once. When the Void Hunter command ship exploded, something unexpected happened. The remaining enemy vessels stopped fighting and began retreating. For the first time in their recorded history, the machines fled from battle. Admiral Morrison watched as the last Void Hunter ships disappeared into hyperspace. The battlefield was littered with debris from both sides, but the victory was complete. The human fleet had lost 23 ships and over 2,000 crew members, but they had achieved total victory. Chairman Veltos requested an immediate meeting with Admiral Morrison aboard the Independence. The crystalline being looked shaken as he faced the human commander. Admiral Morrison, your species has displayed capabilities that far exceed what was reported to the Council, the chairman said. How long have you been concealing your true nature? Morrison looked at the alien leader with tired eyes. Chairman, we never concealed anything. You never asked the right questions. You assumed that because we desired peace, we were incapable of war. But the tactics you used today, Veltos protested. The sacrifice of your own people, the brutal efficiency, the complete disregard for military honor. That is how humans fight when our survival is threatened, Morrison replied. We do not fight for honor or glory. We fight to win by any means necessary. The chairman asked the question that haunted every alien leader. What happens now? Lee, Void Hunters are retreating, but your species has revealed that you are the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Morrison stood and walked to the window, overlooking the damaged fleet. That depends on whether the Council can accept humanity as an equal partner, instead of a junior member to be ordered around. And if we cannot, then Earth will chart its own course in the galaxy, Morrison replied. We prefer cooperation, but we no longer require your approval for our actions. Ambassador Lisa Carter addressed the Council one final time before the human fleet departed for Earth. The Council invited humanity to join as observers 50 years ago. You asked us to remain neutral in your conflicts, and we honored that request. But you cannot ask us to remain neutral when faced with extinction, and then expect us to fight your war according to your rules. Chairman Veltos realized that everything had changed. What does Earth want from the Council now? Respect, Carter replied simply. We have proven that humanity can defend itself and its allies. We hope the Council will remember that when making future decisions. As the human fleet prepared to leave, Admiral Vexul sent a final message to Admiral Morrison. Will Earth help if the Void Hunters return? Morrison's response was broadcast to every ship in the system. Humanity chooses peace when possible, victory when necessary. We hope you remember which one you experienced today. The galaxy would never be the same. The Council had learned that their peaceful human observers were actually apex predators, who had been showing remarkable restraint for 50 years. The species they had dismissed as primitive newcomers had saved them from extinction. President Brooks received Admiral Morrison's final report in the Oval Office. When asked by her chief of staff whether Earth would maintain its neutrality in future galactic conflicts, her response was clear. We will remain neutral in their wars, she said. But any war that threatens humanity will be fought on our terms, using our methods. The Council wanted to see what humans could do when pushed to the edge. Now they know. The age of human dominance in the galaxy had begun, not through conquest, but through the simple demonstration that sometimes the most dangerous predator is the one that chooses not to hunt.